First MedTech Innovator and BioTools Innovator info session for this year's application cycle. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give it a minute or two to let everyone in. There's a lot of people here, so we're going to let them join, and then we'll start this session. In the meantime, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Ayelet. I'm the VP Programs at MedTech Innovator and BioTools Innovator. And we're looking forward to telling you all about our programs. You're all here to learn more about this, and we're here to tell you more about what we do, how we do it, how we support startups in these areas, and answer your questions. So we'll definitely leave time at the end for your questions. I'll introduce the team in a moment. Gabby, how are we looking on? Are people still flowing in?
Yep.
They are.
So let's give it a second.
I think we can go ahead and get started. We already got 120 or so people in, so
All right. Then
let's keep going.
fantastic. Then again, welcome everyone. Great to see you all here. As mentioned, we are here for the first info session of this year for our 2026 applications for MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, and BioTools Innovator. So all three of our programs are open for applications now. I'll introduce the team in a moment, but just very briefly, before we dive into the programs, we'll tell you that all three of our programs are now accepting applications for the 2026 year. MedTech Innovator, our flagship program, is focused on medical devices, diagnostics, and digital health. Most for companies globally that are focused on US market. MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, our program is similar scope and focused on Asia Pacific markets. I know what question is coming up. If you're focused on both, if you're playing in both markets, you can apply to both program. And then BioTools Innovator, our life science focused program, focused on life science tools and platforms for the biotech and pharma industry. You'll hear a lot more about this very, very soon. And so with that, I would like to introduce the team that will tell you more about this. First of all, maybe I'll start with Paul. So Paul Grand, our CEO, is here. Paul, say hi.
Hey everybody, good to see everyone. I'm Paul Grand, CEO here at MedTech Innovator and the founder of MedTech Innovator, which is both MedTech Innovator and BioTools Innovator. Like many of you out there, I was an entrepreneur myself. I started 8 different companies in tech, biopharma, and medtech. Then I went on to become a venture capitalist. So I spent 12 years on the other side of the table. Instead of begging for the money, I was on the other side with the money, which was a nicer place to be in many ways. But as part of that, I got to see how difficult it was to bring these products to market at a much broader scale. And that's why I started MedTech Innovator and then BioTools Innovator to help entrepreneurs like you succeed in bringing your products to market.
Jim, if you could go back. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you, Paul, for joining us here. A little bit about our accelerator. So we are the most impactful accelerator in the world. And you can see here we have over 800 alumni companies. You will hear from some of them at the end of this session. And you'll hear more as we kind of move forward in the application season. We'll have conversations that with our alumni that we'll invite you to join, and you'll hear more from them. Our alumni have gone on to raise over 10 billion with a B in follow-on funding, meaning after graduating from the program, and over 93% of them are still in business or has been acquired. For those of you that are familiar with these with startups kind of metrics, this is staggering. We'll talk more about why this is the case and why our startups are so successful. Over 60 acquisitions in our portfolio only after graduating from the program, and over 500 products that have been brought onto the market. So let's hear how we do this. And with that, I would like to introduce the team that will tell you about our MedTech Innovator and BioTools Innovator program. So Nicole Black, hi Nicole. Nicole is our MedTech Innovator Program Director. And Jim West, hi Jim, our BioTools Innovator Director. Say hi.
Hey
Everyone, I'm
guys.
Nicole. So yeah, the program director at MTI. So I have a background in the startup space as well in MedTech, had my own startup in 3D printed tissue grafts and been here at MTI now about a year and a half. I lived in the Boston area and yeah, may have already been communicating with some of you guys. So thank you for joining.
And
And I'm
Jim,
Jim.
go ahead.
Hey. I'm Jim West. I'm the Associate Director at BioTools Innovator, going in my second year here in the program. I had the fortune of actually going through the first year of BioTools Innovator as a cohort company, spent about 15 years in the medical device field, and then started a BioTools company where obviously the program helped me. And here to help and love helping companies.
Fantastic, thank you. And so with that, we'll let Nicole take it away and start talking about where she is first. Go ahead, Nicole.
Yes, so I am actually joining right now from Times Square in New York City because we just put the cohorts logos for MedTech Innovator up on the NASDAQ tower. So super exciting. Just happened this morning about 2 hours ago. So thrilled that this is a new thing we're doing this year for our companies. Great exposure. Everyone's really excited. So if my internet's a little choppy, you know why. I'm in a courtyard, but excited to be here joining you all.
Thank you, Nicole. And one quick thing, one household item. We will leave questions, or time, sorry, for questions at the end. But in the meantime, if you have questions, please use the Q&A box in your bar at the bottom. Try not to use the chat. We'll answer questions as we go in the Q&A box, and then we'll of course leave time at the end for questions. So without further ado, Nicole, go ahead.
So those of you joining might be wondering about the MedTech Innovator Program. So we are the world's largest accelerator of medical technologies. So what does that mean? Really anything diagnostics, digital health, or devices. I'm gonna say devices probably most common, but good mix of the other two as well. And as we're talking about diagnostics, more comparing the two programs, I would say most commonly it's diagnostics that touch the patient in some way. But this is a photo here from our finals event at the MedTech conference in San Diego just last week. So this is our cohort from this year, all on stage. They were sharing all of the great things that they got out of the program while they were on the stage with us. Yeah, next slide, Jim. And so when we talk
Nicole, real
about,
quick.
Yep.
That looks like a lot more than a dozen companies. How many groups you have up there?
Yeah. So this year we had 64 cohort companies go through the program. So but this is actually only 4% of those that applied, which we'll talk about later. So really great process to admit these companies. And so if you're wondering if you're eligible, we talk about med tech devices, digital health diagnostics. These are just some examples of types of technologies that have gone through our program. So obviously innovative designs for new devices, tools, implantables, new safety mechanisms for existing devices, a lot of biomaterials tech, so tissue grafts, adhesives. We'll talk about later, we even have a plastic surgery track that a lot of those materials companies go through. Interventional tools, healthcare, workflow. I get a lot of questions about, the usage of AI and technologies to optimize, the surgeon experience as well. So a lot of that, imaging on the diagnostic side in particular, patient monitoring, and again, so diagnostics that touch that patient in some way that are facing them. So they are using that device themselves. And then Jim will talk later about the other side of diagnostics, which is more you're selling maybe to a lab, a hospital lab or a CLIA lab. So those might be a better fit for BioTools Innovator, but any sort of wearable device typically would go in the MedTech Innovator bucket. So again, these are just some examples. We've had many more go through the program. You can find out all the alumni companies that have gone through MedTech Innovator on our website and actually sort by the different clinical and technology areas. So if you're curious, has someone in this space already gone through MTI? Check out our website. There's an alumni portfolio on there and you can see all the great types of companies that have gone through.
All right, thanks, Nicole. So in terms of BioTools, we're the new kids on the block. They're the OG at MedTech. We're going into our 5th year, but we're the first ever focused life science tool accelerator. And you can see here our group photo from last year. We had 20 companies in that cohort. This year, we have a cohort of 31. So we've grown significantly in the last year in the program. But a fantastic group of founders focused on these tool space. And you may be asking yourself, well, what is a tool? Do I qualify for that? And again, like Nicole said, we have some examples of companies that kind of fit these categories, but this is not at all meant to be an exhaustive list. You could be an innovative company that's done something that hasn't been done before, and we don't have a category for you, and that's okay. But we're looking at products broadly that where MedTech Innovator often has sort of like a regulatory component. They're talking to the FDA in some way. The BioTools Innovator companies often don't. Sometimes they do, but often they don't. And we're looking at research products, instruments, things that measure, things that go in the lab, things that go in the manufacturing line. R&D and manufacturing services, people who are doing various types of cell and gene therapy, bioreactors, cell engineering, diagnostics and enabling technologies. So this is between MedTech Innovator and BioTools, probably the biggest gray area we have. If you have a technology that kind of could go in both, reach out to us. We can kind of help figure out where to go, and maybe we'll even tell you to apply to both. But the technologies we see are often on the omics side. They're some form of genetic DNA proteomic type analysis, some signal detection with at the small level, and these can be used as platforms, enabling technologies and diagnostics. We also have drug delivery, drug discovery and development. A lot of AI companies in this area are popping up right now. A lot of people doing very interesting things in both solving the data and finding new targets. We also have support for enabling technologies in food and ag. This is an exciting growing area that's a different application of biotool technologies, but one we're really excited to support. And then finally, improving preparedness for medical countermeasures. Obviously, we learned a lot in COVID, and everybody's got a role to play for the next pandemic. So Nicole and I will kind of bounce back and forth on this one, but we wanted to kind of talk about, before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, but like, what is it that we do, and why are we different, and what is the value of what we provide? And when I first came in the program 2 years ago, I actually met with the entire cohort, and I asked each of them, I was like, what did you find to be the most value in the program? And there's a bunch of stuff up here, and it's all valuable. But what I was told over and over, what I heard time and again, was, the mentorship was great, the publicity was great, the community was great, but it's really the ecosystem. It's the people in the program, the alumni the cohort you're surrounded with, the alumni that shows up. It's the whole community of being a part. And entrepreneurship, as you all probably are aware, or you will learn, is a lonely journey. And so having a community of people that get it, that understand, that you can talk to, that you can kind of work through some of these challenges and problems, and maybe you don't have anybody else to talk to about that. It's a great community of people who get it and want to help. But I think the mentorship is a thing that sets us apart from a lot of programs. We actually meet with each company that comes into the program. We figure out what your biggest challenges are, and we actually try to find the best people in the world to help you with those problems. So it's a very curated mentorship with some amazing people. Nicole, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. We'll go through these one by one, but really, all of these are going to provide their own unique value to you. Really, I think the core of the program is around the mentorship we provide, especially our network of strategic and service provider mentors, as well as society tracks in MedTech Innovator. We'll talk more about those at the end. But in terms of mentorship in general, this is everything from right when you're applying up until the very end. So there is feedback at the pitch event. events when you go to that you will get from the judges. And then when you're accepted into the program, all of our early stage companies are matched with either a strategic or society mentor. And then also we will have targeted goals calls with you all to identify what exactly is it that your company needs to get you to the next level. Is that product design, manufacturing, regulatory, reimbursement, whatever that is? We probably have a mentor in our service provider network that is donated in-kind services to help you out with that goal. So all of this is very curated to your company and your needs. It's not just a general pool that we randomly assign to you. And I know the BioTools program also does a really great job at this mentor matching as well. So let Jim talk about that.
Yeah, I think not much to add. It's a great value part of our program. In fact, I was this year I was talking to one of our he was a fairly experienced CEO. He'd built uh, 2 or 3 companies already and built and sold them. Came in the program, was a little bit skeptical about, do I really have anything to learn? Am I getting anything out of this? And he ended up telling me, he's like, the mentors we got, he's like, they were incredible. He's like, I had no expectation of the help and support that we would get from these people. And he's like, but I kind of thought I knew everything, but they were been really helpful.
Yeah. And we've had companies that went through our program like 10, 13 years ago that are still in touch with their mentors, still get advice from them. These are really strong relationships we're helping to build. It's not just during the 4 or 5 month program period, but possibility to continue in the ecosystem, get introductions to other folks, even as an alum of the program. So continuing to support you guys as you move through the process. Yeah, so in addition to that, we have a great educational curriculum for you all. Since you're joining us from all over the world during the Accelerator program, these educational series is mostly virtual webinars. So you can join these from anywhere. They're usually at like 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. And usually we've got 2 for MedTech Innovator a week. On Tuesdays, we have our Spark workshops. So these are our service provider advisory resource kit workshops where our service providers will lead a custom talk and then a series of breakout sessions curated to a topic of interest. Like, for example, we have one coming up next week all about clinical trials with breakout rooms targeted to the stage you are at in your clinical trial planning or execution. And then on Thursdays, we have our MTI Live webinar series. So we've got one tomorrow, Moving MedTech, which you can, of course, join on LinkedIn, but the cohort gets an exclusive 30 minutes at the end with the panelists. So this is going to be all about sales and distribution. So if you want a little taste of that, follow MedTech Innovator. We've got one just coming up tomorrow. And yeah, BTI does as well.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. And I think on the BioTool side, we do a couple of these webinars. They're joint, but we do our own programming as well. And I think that the important thing here is that this is not like general business startup advice. It's not like, here's how to build a pitch deck, here's how to put your TAM together. This is actually we curate this very specifically to the questions that each cohort has, and so these are put together to address specific problems and challenges that companies are facing. And I think that the impact and the value of that is that of our programs is by being very focused. The expertise and the perspective we bring together is very niche and it's very specific and targeted to these fields. So I think, yeah, in terms of the resources of the program, we've got a bunch of them. Some of them are pretty amazing, but strategic partnering opportunities. So we got a lot of companies that they engage with the program because their goal is to see what's happening, meet the up and coming startups and technologies that are going to impact the future. So there's a lot of interest in our partners and connecting with companies. We see deals happening. We see evaluations happening. These lead to anything from collaborative agreements, distribution agreements, sometimes even acquisitions. It's not always an immediate thing, but these are, again, building relationships for the future, which ultimately is what a lot of this is about, is it's building relationships. We also have, I think, support from our program fellows. So we have PhD students. They come on board and we actually have them help out with specific parts of the program. They can help companies with specific targeted asks, and they can help use and help leverage some of the resources we have in the program on the program side, we do something amazing, which I don't know how we do it. Paul's incredible, but we have you get access to PitchBook, which if you don't know what PitchBook is, you should look it up. It's a big deal. But if you want to find out who the investors are, who's invested in companies, relationships between groups, as well as contact and access information, PitchBook is an amazing resource that cohort companies and alumni companies can get access to. If you're on the BioTools side, we have an additional resource called PubGrade, which is it's a database that follows PubMed, PubMed, but research articles as well as industry and conference information. So it's a really great resource for finding KOLs, for accessing sales information, for competitor analysis and things like that. Nicole, do you have anything else on the MedTech side?
Yeah, no, I think really the strength is in our ecosystem. So if you don't have, an exact mentor for your goals, again, we're willing to make introductions to all these great folks. We've got, a huge network of investors that, we make introductions to, as well as for every conference that we go to, pretty much we'll curate a list of all the attending investors, and also if they have invested in MTI alums already. So you can see who really is active in currently investing right now in the medtech space. So a really helpful resource so you're not just going in blind and wondering who's good to talk to. We figure that out for you and get you that info you need to know.
And if you thought PubGrade was, or PubMed, PitchBook, if you thought PitchBook was cool, wait to hear about open rounds. So everybody who comes into the accelerator, you automatically qualify for our open rounds platform, which is a database that investors look at looking for deal flow. And so when you have your next round coming up, we can put you in the open rounds portal, and then that would mean your seed, your Series A, your Series B. Those investment details and documents can be available for perusal, and we can share those with our network as well. It's a great new value add we have in the program. There are funding opportunities in the program. Not everybody gets that, but our programs are competitive. And so for both of our programs, we have a competitive analysis, a competitive component at the end. And if you are the winner, you can qualify for some additional funding from the program, as well as being in the program around the network. We have world-leading venture capitalists and investors and other groups who are involved looking for companies like yourselves.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it, Jim. So really great resources here. And yeah, open rounds in particular, we just launched about a year ago. So again, for these conferences we go to, in addition to telling you who's going to be there, we send them your information. So we'll curate a list of the companies going, send it out to them so they can see all of your info in one place, your pitch deck, how much you're raising, how much is left open in it. So they know, you are the right one to talk to as well.
Yeah, we've got hundreds of investors using that right now. Every single day, they're logging in and looking at companies, following up directly with them. It's a really great resource that our companies get a particular exclusive ability to be listed in. And most importantly is, as we said in the intro, on an annual basis, about 25% all the capital raised in the medtech sector is going to graduates of our accelerator. And BioTools Innovator is crushing it as well. So more on that later.
Thanks, Paul. And actually, I was going to say, in terms of this story with investors, they come to us and they're like, what are the companies in your portfolio doing? And when we're like, hey, 94% of our companies are still in business or been acquired, all this funding is going to them, and they're like, yes, tell me more. Like this diligence that you guys do, being in the program, it's a stamp of approval. And it's a real achievement to make it in. And so they do pay attention to that, and it's a huge draw. In terms of recognition and visibility, so we do a couple of things in the program, which we'll kind of talk about more when we get into the timeline, but there is a couple conferences involved in the program with BioTools and MedTech Innovator and MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific. We do a summit where everybody comes together. A lot of our community comes out. It's kind of the kickoff to the program, but it's a multi-day event, a bit of a conference. And then with BioTools, we do a capstone conference at the end of the program where all the companies get a chance to present themselves, pitch on stage. There is a panels and a little bit of a conference around it. There's a bunch of investors who show up. We will do matching and conversations and things like that. Those are the primary BioTools ways. MedTech, I think you've got a couple different ones, right, Nicole?
Yeah. And really being part of this community is just so much visibility on its own. We have a very active LinkedIn page, not just posting the accomplishments of our current companies, but alumni well after they've graduated. You see, I have on our pin. So when we go to conferences, we give those in the MTI community this pin to showcase that they are part of it. So as they're walking around, someone's like, hey, this is an MTI, or I want to talk to them about it. All of our companies that create 1-minute videos get high visibility through that as well. So we encourage you all to make a 1-minute video showcasing your technology and story. We amplify these. They're on our YouTube page. This year, many of them got 2,000 or more views. So we really want to help you succeed. We put you out into the world between these conferences and also online opportunities. You just saw the NASDAQ Tower photos. So things like that, we are making sure that you are recognized and that folks in the industry know who you are.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. And on the 1-minute video, I made one for when I was in the program. That ended up being one of the most impactful things that I did for my company. It's very, you don't want to do it. It takes a lot of time and resources and energy, or it can, but you get out what you put in. And this video ended up being really impactful because, especially if a life science tool company, it's very hard to tell our story. The hardest thing you can have is someone who's just kind of in the population ask what you do. You're like, well, where do I start? But these videos are really incredible for helping tell that story. And for me, it opened up a lot of doors. And I was actually talking to a company a week ago, and they said, we had an M&A transaction. Our company got acquired. And I was like, oh, great. I was like, what was how did that start? And they said, well, it all started because we had a video. And that video is what communicated what we did. And that helped lead to a transaction for our company that would not have happened without having that video in place. Really incredible.
And just to add to this, one of our current cohort companies I was just talking to now, Kelly from RenewRx, she was saying how she always leads conversations with folks that they are part of MedTech Innovator because instantly their eyes light up and they pay closer attention. So just being a part of that community is just so impactful. It is proof that you've been through our rigorous selection process, made it into that 4% or so acceptance rate, and you are the one to watch. And alongside that community, so our companies really, in addition to loving their mentors and the ecosystem, love each other. And we have a really strong network of companies and also alumni that continue to stay engaged. We have these leadership ponds that we put together based on, your interests at the summit of who you'd like to talk to more and continue a relationship with. So these are usually like 4 to 6 people, usually CEOs or leaders in the company. We'll provide a framework for you guys to start off a productive group relationship. And even pods from last year are still meeting up like every other week on Zoom. So really a lot of success around this. I think, that the strength of MedTech Innovator and bringing everyone together from around the world. And as many of you know, there is no one hub for MedTech or even for BioTools. I'm from Boston. A lot of people are like, oh, that's a hub. Not really. Like this, you only have like 2 companies, MedTech Innovator. We have way more Israel. So coming in from all over the world to join this. And so this is your way to find answers to your questions. We have a very active Slack community with different channels. You can post, ask questions in, and people aren't afraid to ask questions and answer and continue to follow up with whatever that question is. If it's recommendations for a KOL, if it's advice on going to a conference or not. Every day there's things posted and people continue to stay engaged. So it's not like you plug in for 4 months, you plug out. These folks are continuing to get value out of our ecosystem.
Yeah, I love the community. I think it's one of the most impactful parts, and there's so many intangible benefits to being part of this community. People are going to bio, who's going? Let's meet up. Or I'm thinking about an investor group. What do you guys think? Do you have experience with that investor group? if some of you are weirdos like us, you might be like, hey, in 5 years, I may be at a new company, or I maybe, exited my company. You're still part of the community. And we have people all the time reaching out like, hey, we're looking for CEOs. We're looking for people who can advise or lead or come into organizations. It's just a fantastic community to be a part of. And it can lead to lots of opportunities, I think, down the road.
Yeah. And at the conferences we do continue to go to, we'll have receptions as well for the community. So as an alum, you continue to get invited and stay plugged into those. At the MedTech conference last week, I think we had like about 40 alumni come to that, that weren't even in the program this year. We're in it, 1 to 13 years ago, and full spectrum that showed up. So people do continue to stay engaged. Everything JP Morgan, we have alumni opportunities for the MTI companies, showcases for you guys at Device Talks, Wilson Sonsini, and MedTech Malta coming up in a month as well. So a lot of really cool opportunities to stay engaged. Great. So our ecosystem, again, one of the huge strengths of this is in our partners. So through MedTech Innovator, we're really fortunate to be supported by our partners here. So not just financially, but their human capital, what they're contributing in terms of judging, to mentorship, to workshops, really helping to guide you end to end to what it takes to be successful. So of course, we have our strategic partners, big names like Johnson & Johnson, BD, Dexcom, Gore, folks that you've definitely heard of in your space. We have 2 specialty tracks this year, one through the American Heart Association and one through the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, where these societies, in addition to the regular benefits of MTI, you get to be part of that community. They'll invite you to their conference. So I actually just came back from the plastic surgery meeting in New Orleans with our ASPS cohort, where they all got booths, which is huge. And they were right next to the middle of the floor, next to Allergan, which, if you know the plastics industry, they are the players. So they got tons of foot traffic. Our mid-stage companies were even making sales on the floor. Great opportunity around that. And then, of course, Innovation and Perks are service provider partners that are really the subject matter experts in product design, manufacturing, clinical trials, fundraising, regulatory, reimbursement, end-to-end, anything you might need. So those folks continue to support our companies, both formally through mentoring and our workshops, as I mentioned, but also, having conversations with you, helping you out, complimentary. We have ecosystem partners as well. So I talked about some of these conference and visibility opportunities that you get. This is all in partnership with these fabulous organizations here.
Yeah, I think it's a great group of supporters and people. On the BioTools side, we have companies like Thermo Fisher, Nissan. So one thing on the tool side, we also have a formal relationship with BARDA. It's kind of a track within the program. And this track is focused on enabling technologies for their hub. If you've been following along, we also, on their behalf, are giving out grants to companies on behalf of BARDA. And these grants meet objectives of theirs, but there's also program benefits for being in. So if you're a company that has an enabling technology type track, technology that's applicable to BARDA or organizations like that, definitely consider applying for that, and that track is open for us.
And I'm jumping in here a minute before we talk about, program requirements, timeline, how to apply all that. One important thing that we wanted to highlight, maybe a couple of important things, is first and foremost, all these wonderful resources that Jim and Nicole were telling you about, all these things that are provided to our companies during the programs. These are all at MedTech Innovator, and there's a reason we said this is what differentiates us, right? And so these things are brought to companies not as kind of a one size fits all. Our programs are really customized to the stage of the company, to where your company is at this moment. So in a lot of the things that you've heard, like the mentorship, the webinars, the leadership pods, a lot of the things that we do with our companies are really taking into consideration where your company is specifically at this point in time, right? And what we do is we build around those challenges that you might have, or opportunities that you might have at this point in time, and help elevate that or mitigate some of the concerns or some of the challenges that you have. Help de-risk some of these risks that you have, and most importantly, really, we really do this. It's really built to fit the companies in the program. The companies in the program are also selected based on the interests of our strategic partners as part of what we do in this program. And this is important because we want to make sure that whoever we're bringing into the program, and we'll talk a little bit more about this and how competitive this process is, but at the end of the day, what we want to do is make sure that whoever we bring into the program has the right support, and we are able to give you the right support to propel you forward, to accelerate you. And so everything that is happening in this program is really customized to your program. And I don't know, Paul, if you want to add a little bit more about that and how our maybe strategic partners are involved in this selection or in the support in the companies.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Ayelet. So a really important thing to know about MedTech Innovator and BioTools Innovator is that we're taking in input literally from 500 to 700 people, depending on the particular program, who are weighing in on the process. So they're experts who are looking at your applications, who are specifically focused in particular aspects of your company or product, and they give us their feedback. And then that information goes to our corporate partners, who are in many cases the mentors that you'll be working with during the program, and as well as others. But the corporate partners are a key part of it. So those corporate partners will look at all the information that others have provided. They'll also do their own evaluation of the companies, and they'll make decisions along the way. So from the very beginning, all the way to the very end, the corporates are involved in the program. This is not an accelerator where they just show up at the very end and clap and walk up and shake your hand. This is something where they're the ones who are choosing you from the very beginning of the process and then shepherding you all the way through. They're the ones who will vote to choose which companies make it into the accelerator programs. And most importantly, as I said before, they're going to work directly with you if you are accepted. So it's a really key part of this. It means that in terms of requirement, you have to fit with one of our corporate partners. Now, our corporate partners are very broad. If you look across on our website, there's a supporters page, and you'll see a list of all of the different people who are supporting the program. And you can look at their different areas of interest and figure out whether or not you're a fit. Generally speaking, we tell everybody just apply, because what happens occasionally, even if you say, well, I'm not really sure if I fit into someone's area of interest, occasionally we'll have a company that is outside of everyone's areas of interest, but everyone is so excited about it that we still bring them into the program. And we've literally had those companies not only get accepted to the accelerator, but win the competition at the very end of the program, or the competitions, even though they weren't directly on strategy for a particular strategic or corporate. Also the same thing with our specialty societies. So again, ones like the American Heart Association or American Society for Plastic Surgeons. You might think, oh, I'm not sure if my technology is a fit for them, but you find out later on that they're like, no, this is squarely in our area of interest, or it's something we don't advertise, but we are very interested in that. So again, I encourage people just apply. And then what we do in our process is we will route companies, even if you don't check the box saying, hey, I'd like to be considered for a particular track or for a particular partner. We will go in and we will do that work to say, hey, You may not realize it, but you are a particular fit for this program, and we'll put you onto the right appropriate list. In the case of BARDA, I think there was a question in the chat about that. It's a BARDA, they're the ones, again, who are deciding if you're a fit for their areas of interest, not the other strategic partners. So I'll take a pause there, Ayala.
Yeah, thank you. And just on the specific question on of BARDA, there are two separate opportunities with BARDA. One of them closed now, which is a non-dilutive funding opportunity. That is a separate one from what we are talking about as part of the BioTools Innovator Accelerator. There will be additional 10 companies that will be part of that accelerator, and that is open as part of the BioTools application. So I think, Jim, you can go ahead and talk about the next few slides.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so program requirements. We say early to mid-stage startups. If you're super late stage, and I saw a question up here about Series D fundraising, I think it's less about the actual series and more about sort of the stage and position of the company. And so we did in BioTools, we take generally from pre-seed up to about Series A, maybe B. We're thinking around the $20 million equity raised range, but it's a little bit flexible. So MedTech Innovator, I know is a little bit higher. I think they'll do generally more seed to Series B. But these are not strongly defined. I know they've had a company that raised $100 million go through. So it's really, if you have questions about it, I think the value really is, are you going to get value? Is there a problem or a challenge with the company? If you're going to be exiting next week, it's probably not going to provide much value. But if you're still trying to figure things out and you've got some strategic questions or, trying to optimize your business model, those sorts of things, closing your round, those are probably things we can help with. So we'd kind of encourage you to apply, but think about that. We do require that companies are incorporated at the start of the program. You do not have to be incorporated to apply. So if you apply, you can be a spin out from your lab or whatever, that's fine. Just by the time you start the program, be incorporated in some form in what's relevant for whatever country you're in. We also ask that companies have runway to execute on current milestones. It's really sad if you have to go out of business in the middle of the program and you can't finish the program or the things involved. So, make sure that you've got enough runway to get where you need to go. Have prototypes, some proof of concept. We are not we call ourselves more of a second stage accelerator. If you're trying to figure out the fundamentals of the business, the deck, how to put a business together, we can help with that. And if you've got a really impactful technology, we can help you. But if you don't have any data, if you don't have any proof of concept, if it's an idea that hasn't been formed into something tangible, you just may be a little bit too early still. And so it's hard for us to make decisions on companies when there's not data about the utility or the viability of what you're developing, especially if it's a pretty technical advancement. But if you have any questions, reach out to us, talk. We're happy to answer and evaluate and tell you what we think.
Yeah, just to add on to this, I get questions
Yeah.
all the time from companies that are like, are we too early or are we too late? Just this year alone, we've had companies that, are basically bootstrapped right out of academia all the way to, we have a company that's raised 250 million equity funding alone. So really less a question of the stage you're at and more of, can you get something out of MedTech Innovator? So whether that is targeted mentorship, whether that is being part of a MedTech focused community, whether that is the education that we provide. If you heard something today and you're like, I would benefit from that, that is much more what we're looking at than your exact stage. There is no magic recipe for you have to be starting clinical trials or just made your first sale for the program. We have companies of all stages that go through and get a lot of value out of it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too, the way I like to say is that this is not, again, the place where if you have an idea and you're thinking about starting a company, this is not the right accelerator for you. You're going to want to probably do another accelerator that's earlier, and then come to us when you actually have the things that you see on the slide here, at least some prototypes and some version of proof of concept. At least. And we have companies on the other end that, as you heard before, are much more mature. They're already on the market. Maybe they're in the market in Europe and they want to come to the US, or maybe it's vice versa, whatever it might be. The companies can be very mature, but still have, as I always like to say, plenty of mistakes ahead of them to make. I tell people all the time, your company will probably not fail because your product didn't work or because your clinical trial failed. Your company will probably fail because you make mistakes, strategic mistakes that you'll look back and go, why did we do that? Or why didn't we talk to somebody sooner about this? Or we thought we could wait and like consider that problem, in 2 years, but it turns out we should have been addressing that 2 years ago. So whatever it is, the point is, if you have mistakes ahead of you, which you all do, then MedTech Innovator or BioTools Innovator can help you. And we have companies that, again, every single year, it's always the same. Companies graduate from our programs and they say, overwhelmingly, I had no idea all the doors and people you're going to be opening for us and who we were going to be able to meet. And, like one company was saying that they had been going down to meet with a particular customer of theirs. So they're already on the market. They had a customer they were going to go meet with, and they barely were ever able to get any kind of like real face time with management. And then this time, because of us, they were able to go meet with the general manager of the entire division, who walked them around and gave them all this access that they never would have had. And so again, it's just an incredible amount of access and visibility into companies that ultimately may be your partner someday, that may acquire you, that may be a partner with you in some way. They're wanting to work with you early to make sure that you're the best product that you can be before that partnership or acquisition or whatever deal might be. So again, I always tell everybody, just apply to the program and we will figure out if you are a fit or not. It is definitely worth applying.
And lastly, a lot of people ask about what's the commitment in terms of time. For the program, we'll get to it, runs June to October, so about 3-4 months. And we do require that you have at least one senior person on the team committed to the participation in the program. And so there's a lot of things, from the leadership pods to the webinars to representing the company at different events. So we need someone committed to participating in the program. So that's what we need there. In terms of the program outline, all of our programs run on a very similar cadence. So we have similar deadlines and inflection points, but they happen at different locations sometimes. So for all of our programs, the applications this year, we have a deadline of December 1st. If you've applied previously, you will know that this is the earliest deadline we've ever had. There's a reason for it. We have everything's moving forward a little bit this year because we're trying to get, one of the complaints in the program is sometimes it takes us longer than we would like to let people know that they're in the program. And then they got to figure out their travel, their schedule, they got to commit. So we're trying to get better and do everything a little bit earlier. So this is a commitment from us to do better with our timelines. But December 1st will be our application deadline. And then at that point, we actually start internal reviews. We have a whole ecosystem of reviewers that review these applications. We start that in December. And then over the next few months, we will reach out because we will do our what we call stage 2, which is our in-person pitch events, the road tour. And so these happen March to probably April. We're giving ourselves some flexibility. They're still kind of shoring up the details on all of these, but between March and May, we will have these events and you will be invited to participate. These are in-person events. A lot of value is derived. In fact, this is one of my favorite parts of the whole accelerator, is this pitch event, because it's way better than most pitch events you've probably ever been to. It has a lot of value. So at these events, you actually sit down at a table. It's small pitches. You're going to do five small pitches with a table of 5 to 7 experts. These are people who know the market, know the industry. They're very experienced people. That you get 20 minutes. You pitch, table discussion, Q&A. You get a little bit of feedback from this event, and then you switch tables. And I've had people come back to me afterwards when they get this feedback, and they're like, "Oh my God, like this feedback was a little brutal, but nobody's ever told me this before. And this is incredible. Like, I really needed to hear this. And nobody's ever told me before. And so it's a really great way to build some relationships, to get connected to the ecosystem, to better your program, to better your company. And after these events are over, it goes into selection. So we take all the feedback from these pitch events and we narrow it down to who's getting into the program. We try to notify those in May, and then the program, like I said, starts in June. It starts in early June this year at the Innovator Summit. It's a conference. It's a multi-day conference. It's in person. So it's, most of the program is virtual, but this is also in person. Everybody comes together. You get to meet your classmates. You get to meet some of your mentors, some of the ecosystem. And then after that, everybody goes back home. It happens virtually through there. And during the program, you're going to get your mentors assigned. You're going to start working on your videos. You're going to get your leadership pods. And then we're going to start doing the weekly curated webinars for focus content. And then that leads to the end of the program in October. And at the end of the program, we each have our own version of events, but you will get a chance to present yourself. And that's when the program closes out. But that's kind of a quick measure of the journey. I will say it's a pretty intense couple of months, but it's, you get what you put out. It's probably realistically 4 to 8 hours a week, give or take, with some ebb and flow. But that's the key program date you need to know about. Nicole, do you have anything to add for the MedTech side?
Not much. Want to get to Q&A, but just mentioning the summit as well. We have about 50 of our alumni that come in every year that lead C-suite circle discussions with you all, sharing their knowledge. Was one of the favorite things of the companies this year. So you're not just learning from each other partners, but all of the great folks that have been through the program before. So really, really great opportunity.
So Nicole, that's a great point. So we have some slides left to show, but we may just want to jump to Q&A. I think we got 10 minutes, but I've got a picture here. We'll show kind of the MTI finals. Maybe you can quickly, briefly talk about the finals here, Nicole.
Yeah, so we hold our final showcase for MTI in collaboration with the MedTech Conference, which is powered by AdvaMed, the great trade organization that really supports the MedTech industry, brings all the large strategics and startups together as well. As part of MTI, you also get a free year of their AdvaMed Excel, which is a great program to be in as a startup. But at this showcase, all of you guys are going to be in panels on the stage in the middle of the expo floor, so very high foot traffic and high attendance for curated discussions, as well as we usually have 3 competitions there. So our early stage grand prize, execution award, and best video award competitions at this. We do have another set of competitions usually later in November at the MedTech Strategist Innovation Summit, where we have our value award competition, which is the culmination of our value program. Don't have too much time to talk about this here, hopefully in a future webinar, but these are companies that have worked in value workshop, intensive 3-hour session with facilitators, refining their value proposition for various stakeholders, and then individualized coaching, as well as our mid-stage competition there. So yeah, overall the funnel for this, again, we start off with, almost 1,500 applicants this year, invite about 15% of those to pitch, ultimately landing at our cohort in the 60 to 65 range. Yeah, so the funding awards for the early and mid stage this year were $350K and then $200K for mid stage. So great opportunities to bring some funding into your company here.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. And for BioTools, we had over 400 applicants last year. 20% were invited to pitch, and about 5% made it into the accelerator. You may have noticed, but the prizes, so the funding here is $250,000 at the capstone for BioTools Innovator. It is 2 prizes at MedTech, $350 and $200K in that funding. So with the BTI capstone, we put on a conference. I've already talked about that. So it's a great event, super valuable, lots of fun, and you get tickets to this invite-only event when you're in the program. So with that, applications are open for all programs, and we do have a few videos we wanted to show, but I don't think we have time. So maybe what we can do is we can share these videos with you afterwards, and you can watch them on your own time.
Or you can play them in the background while we're answering Q&A if you want. So,
I could, but they have audio. They're all
oh,
audio.
okay. All right. All right. Well,
All
let's
right,
get to Q&A.
let's do it.
Maybe
So,
let's start with an important question here from someone. I was wondering how IP is treated. Are there any NDAs or similar confidentiality agreements? Really important. I just want to address this right away. All the information that we are asking from you in the application, as well as later on in the program, is non-confidential. We really make sure that you do not submit any confidential materials during your application or later on in the program. There's no NDA or agreement required. However, a lot of our companies, if they if they work with their mentor and decide mutually that they would want to sign an NDA in order to discuss some things that are confidential, they can. But there's no such requirement, and we actually make sure that you do not submit. Some of you that have maybe started their application or submitted it will see that you'll get an email from us saying, oh, there's a confidential deck or something that we can't use. So we really monitor that closely and make sure that you only discuss non-confidential materials. Okay, let's see. Other questions that we want to answer. Let's see.
can businesses or ventures just starting up ask for resources if not fully enrolled? Um, So we're only able to provide resources to companies that are in the accelerator. It's a very competitive process. We put a lot of work into getting the right companies into the program that we think that we can help. So we do, if you apply, we do our best to give you some feedback from the review process and from the pitch events if you're able to make it there. Most companies do have to apply more than once to get in. Like I said, it's very competitive, but if you're not in the program or sort of apply through those processes, we probably can't help you directly with resources for your company.
There's a question here. I'm not going to read the whole technology description, but do we need, they're based in Europe. Do we need a US clinical partners or presence to be eligible? No, you do not need this. You can actually use this program as a good starting point for this, and we can help you connect with organizations in the US. You do not have to have a presence. I mentioned in the beginning, if your target market is the US, this is the program for you, the US program. So you do not need a presence.
Had a great question about company at the intersection of many of these categories we talked about: safety mechanisms, device design, implantables. How do they indicate that on the application? So you describe your product. Most of the boxes are free form. When we do ask you for categorization, we'll let you check as many categories as fits your product, both in the technology areas and clinical areas. And in fact, most of the best innovations come from these cross-disciplinary techs. So a lot of wearables with an integrated app that we're seeing, implantables with some sort of like post-monitoring integration for them. So you don't need to cleanly fit into one of these boxes. And in fact, it's often a good thing. So just describe your product as it works. And then when you get to those categories, again, it's mainly for our internal purposes when we're trying to assign reviewers and things like that.
So we have a question here about, oh, good.
Oh, sorry. There's a bunch of questions here about stages from all sides of the spectrum, right? If we were just spun out of academia versus we already have a Series D. I think Nicole mentioned it earlier. There's no recipe. I would say apply even if you are just, spun out of academia for your benefit, right? The benefit of applying is having a lot of our reviewers and professional ecosystem, just having eyes on your application, on your technology, and providing feedback to you. So I think that in and of itself is value to you. And sometimes when we look at the applications and our reviewers identify a moonshot, or reviewers identify technology that may be in its early stage, but is worth looking at this point. We might be able to take such a company into the program, and even if we don't, and as Paul I think mentioned, a lot of companies don't make it in on the first try, right? On the first year they apply, and we have winners in the program, grand prize winners that have gotten into the program on their third try, right? Third time's a charm. Apply. My advice would be apply, get feedback, get early feedback. Even if you're later stage, a lot of our mid-stage companies have got a lot of value out of this program. If we'll have time, we'll show some of the testimonials, but got a lot of value from the program, even if you're later stage. So there's a lot to gain from this. I would suggest apply. If it's not a fit, we will let you know as soon as possible.
There are a number of questions that I'm seeing in here related to fees. So let me address that. So the first thing is there is no fee to apply to MedTech Innovator or to BioTools Innovator. We want to eliminate any bars at all. We want to have everybody out there have the ability to apply. And as you just heard from Ayelet, you will get feedback as part of the application process, which is somebody who pitched a lot of people in the past. I can tell you I would have loved some feedback. So a huge value to you for applying is getting some feedback. If you are advanced to our diligence road tour, that is a critical point in our process in which we're going to provide all sorts of resources and have the ability for you to meet with literally hundreds of people in many cases who will give you direct feedback. These are investors, these are corporate partners to the program, these are regulators, these are payers. These are customers who you will have, and you're now going to have the ability to meet with them. We've had many people go to the Diligence Road Tour events and say, I just had literally the most productive day I've had in my entire career. Thank you so much. Even if I don't advance to the accelerator, just making it to the Diligence Road Tour was incredibly valuable. Thank you so much for that. And only a third of those people will advance to the accelerator. So I'm glad they're getting a ton of value out of that. If you were invited to the Diligence Road Tour, when you get your invitation, which will be by email, you will learn which programs you are in consideration for. So for BioTools Innovator, there's BioTools Innovator's main program, there's the BARDA options, there's other things as well. You'll hear which ones you're being in consideration for. For MedTech Innovator, we have multiple programs and multiple tracks as well. If there are any fees or equity requirements that are associated with that particular program, it will be detailed in the invitation to the diligence event. And at that time, you can either say, hey, sounds great, can't wait, looking forward to this, or you can say, actually, I don't want to do it. Again, we will tell you exactly what programs you're in consideration for, and if there are any fees or if there's any equity requirements at that time, we will notify you. That's how the process works. In general, as I said, our goal is to make this program accessible to everyone. So even if you're a company that is incredibly early stage, that is very minimal resources, we want to make sure you have access to these opportunities. We have never turned somebody away because they didn't have the ability to travel or pay for something. We always find a way, if we really want you in the program, to make sure you're in the program. But ultimately, all of your answers as it relates to any particular requirements will be answered at the time that you're actually getting an invitation to advance in the process. So first step is apply, no fees to apply, and all your answers will come after that.
All right, thanks, Paul. I got two quick questions here that I wanted to address. One is a very common one about intellectual property. So as I mentioned, we do not have NDAs with you in the application. So when you submit your application, don't give us confidential data. Now, if you're a technology company, hopefully you have applied for patents, you have some form of protection or at least trade secret on what you're doing. It's up to you to know what you can and can't share. But to be honest with you, we don't need the confidential. We want to know about your product, how you're going to solve a problem in the market, how you're going to get your solution to customers, how you're going to scale your manufacturing. The how it works, again, if you've got the IP protection, you can tell us. If you don't have the IP protection, just say I can't talk about this part, but share what you can, so that at least we have some credibility with you. If you have any questions, let us know. But I will tell you, if your application or your deck or whatever you submit has the word confidential in it in some way, it'll be rejected. So we will not accept confidentially marked materials. And so I will tell
And
companies,
maybe to comfort some of you with the follow-up question here on IP is that we had 818 now alumni that have gone through the program without having to disclose anything confidential. You should be able to talk about your technology within the bounds of what you can say, and still share the technical details and some of the things that are critical to your value proposition, right? And as I said, there are cases where companies have decided to work with the strategic further, right? And have decided to dive into, diligence, technical due diligence, or something like this. In this case, you will have a relationship with that strategic or investor or whatever that is, the mentor in your program or otherwise that you were introduced to, and you can sign an NDA with them. Usually when there's mutual interest, that's the case. But as I said, over 800 companies that have gone through the program without having to do this. So we're happy to help you and support you during the program on how to do that as well.
but that's only when you're in the program. So at the judge events, at the review phase,
Yeah.
we can't accept confidential agreements. When you're working with someone one-on-one in the
Absolutely.
program, you guys can work it out. We don't want to get in the middle of that. You could imagine our liability if we were trying to keep track of 1,600, 4,000 NDAs, and all the people those are going to. So we don't want to get in that position with you or us.
Yeah. And again, what was said earlier, but I just want to repeat it on this one point. So again, if you submit an application and you have a deck, as Jim mentioned, that says the word confidential on the bottom, somewhere on the, at the bottom of every single slide, or if you have a slide that says proprietary on it or something like that, what will happen is somebody on our team will flag that as being confidential. You will get a follow-up message that says your application contains confidential information. Please replace it. And generally, to the best of our ability, we tell you what was confidential. So we say your pitch deck, for example, had confidential marked in the bottom of the slide. And then you'll have to replace it before our reviewers will be able to review your application. So watch your email after you submit. You're going to want to check for things like that. But we do our best to make sure that you'll still be considered, and we will chase you a little bit and say, hey, just reminding you, you still have a week to hit submit, and your application has confidential materials. We will chase you a bit, but really, like everything, it's going to be up to you to check in and look at those emails and see that, oh my gosh, there was something confidential I need to replace. So it's on you, like everything, to make sure you do that. But we will do our best to try and make sure that we don't just come back 3 months later and say, oh, sorry, we rejected it because it had confidential information. So
Ayelet, I've got a question for you here. It says, since there is a runway requirement, we're ineligible if we just spun out of academia and in the process of raising a pre-seed seed round. Is this correct? No, we do have a prototype along with some early traction memorandums of understanding. Can you maybe address that for the group?
Yeah, I mean, I think along the lines of what I've said before, we prefer knowing that your company has runway to execute on the advice that we give you throughout the program, on the tactical steps that your mentors will go through with you and help you get to your next inflection point, right? You need runway to do that. Did we have companies that had no runway in the program? Maybe. I think, it's important. And when we say runway, it doesn't have to be equity. You can also have grants that help fund some of your product development, some of your commercial efforts, right? So there are different sources of funding that you might have. Maybe you have a very low burn rate and your runway is, short, but you have a very low burn rate. what's important is that every company is evaluated really based on their needs and their resources and their team and so on and so forth, right? And so my advice, again, it's hard for me to answer without knowing the details. Apply, give us the details, and we can make we and our reviewers and our ecosystem can make the evaluation of understanding, if your company is building a medical device that requires, PMA, that's a different need for resources than if you're building a software company, right? And so there's a lot that goes into it. I think that we can evaluate based on the specific details of your application. So that would be my advice to you. And if you are worried about applying for some reason, or prefer to talk to us before, that's also an option. There's applications at medtechinnovator.org. Please email us. We're happy to take a call and go through this with you on a quick Zoom.
Yeah, and just to
And
add
it's
on
not
to
so
that,
uncommon.
runway looks different for every company. If, for example, at MTI, we have a lot of surgeon-founded companies where, they're planning to transition into a full-time CEO role. Of course, you need someone to commit to, I would say, like 10 to 15 hours a week participation in the program, but we're all workaholics in this industry. So we have folks that can do that as, full-time surgeons or other academics, but you really need to be committed to making this a real company, not just an academic idea. But we do have teams that are partially still based in academia. They have an agreement with the institution for, their IP and improvements that follow up on that. So they still have STTR grants or other institutional grants through that. So it doesn't all need to be like equity funding. We just want to make sure, again, that you have the team that can continue to be supported and work on this to make it real. That's really it.
Yep. All right, next question. I got two more here. How will you evaluate first-time founders straight out of college, but good background and tech experience? For the BioTools side, I will say it's very common, very common. We are actually not in a position to help solve the hardest technical challenges you face. We hope you've got that experience with your product development, but what we can really help with is helping identify the business side of things, the coaching. We can help you understand how to avoid mistakes, how to build a regulatory plan, how to get product development going without losing your shirt. All these different things. So I think as a first-time founder, as long as you're open and interested in learning and passionate about what you're doing, I see no problem with that at all. The next question is it's a very specific question about Ethiopia, an Ethiopian project for diabetic footwear, looking to expand that globally and through Silicon Valley. I don't really have many specific comments here other than if that is your goal, I think you should apply to the program. This is definitely something we'd be able to help with. And I think it'd be a great, you should definitely apply. And then the last question on the criteria side, what are other sources of proof of concept evidence? Like everything else, this is very subjective. It depends on the type of technology, where you are in the development cycle. But if you're breaking laws of physics in your product statements, we're going to want to see some evidence that you're real. So I would say if there's any questions about what would qualify here, just reach out. And like we say before, many companies, you apply multiple times. If you're very early, you still get value out of applying, and you can figure out, okay, this was the feedback I got and what I need to work on. So for next year, I'm going to be really ready. So if there's real questions there, reach out to us. But that's
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing on proof of concept. So we've had companies on the medtech side that have a device that they're working on that is leveraging somebody else's data. So like, for example, there might have been a device that I remember there was one where when they were connecting basically the left and right sides of the heart, somebody had done it in a mechanical way where there was actually material left inside the body. And this company was doing the same thing, except they were just punching a hole between the sides of the heart and connecting them in that way and not leaving anything behind. And so they were using the other people's evidence that, boy, if you can open up this connection, that it's gonna relieve some of the burden on the heart. So it wasn't their own evidence that it was going to work. It was somebody else's evidence. That's just fine. So that was acceptable. So proof of concept evidence doesn't even have to be yours with your exact device or your technology, if you're able to really give us a good analogy for why this should work. So that's just one example that we can abstract. But for the most part, it should be your own evidence. It could be bench, it could be cadaver if it's on the human side, it could be animal, it could be live humans. It just depends on what it might be on the medtech side, on the BioTools side, right? It could be again some form of evidence from the bench or from something else. But again, something that really shows us it looks like this thing is going to work. That's really, when you put up a product slide and you go, here's our solution, or, and this is what we're doing, the next slide should say, and here's some evidence that it works. And whatever that evidence is, that's what we want to see. So just think of it in those terms.
Okay. Well, I
Did we
think
get
that's all
everything?
of our questions.
Q&A.
We got through them. We stayed
We got
15 minutes late, but we
we
got it
got
done. So
40 questions we answered. That's pretty good. Nice job on that.
It's a lot of people that are asking questions. So, but
Yeah.
it's led to, but importantly, I don't know, we may not have covered every small question. If we didn't, if we missed anything, if you come up with other questions as you hang up in the Zoom, just email us, please. Let us know. Our team is here to answer questions and take any calls as needed. We've tried answering some that were in the chat as well, but again, if we missed it, just reach out to us.
I like, before we go, could you please just do a quick sort of marketing brief of what our next webinars are about and if or why people should attend those
Yeah,
webinars,
so
those info
absolutely.
sessions?
So our next info sessions are really an opportunity for you. They will be more program specific. So that's one thing that's going to happen. We will now have MTI webinars and we will have BTI webinars so that we can dive into the details of each program a little bit more in depth. And in terms of how we're going to run these webinars, you'll get all the details in the follow-up emails, but the reason for you to join these webinars is that what we're trying to bring to you is more of a firsthand experience from our alumni. And even though we already have Jim here, who is an alumni, they'll have an opportunity to really tell you what was impactful for them, right? So I guess this is what everybody on this call cares about, right? How does this help me further my business, my company, my goals? And so this is exactly what's going to happen in the next webinars. There will be alumni there. They will talk to you about how each and every part of these, program components that you've heard about, the mentorship, the leadership pods, the webinars, the value program, all of these things, the finals, all these things, how did they fit into the impact that MedTech Innovator had and BioTools Innovator had on your company. And so next up, we have November 5th for a BTI info session as well as an MTI info session separately. So based on the program, if you're not sure what program, please reach out to us before. We can kind of help triage you into where you should go. And sometimes it'll be both. And so they'll be recorded, not to worry. After that, we'll have another opportunity to connect with our team and with our alumni for what we call an Ask Me Anything, right? So there'll be a session where, again, we will have all the details, all the slides, but the goal of this session would be to answer your questions. This is a little bit further into the application season, so hopefully some of you will join when you've already started an application and have some questions to finalize it. So we'll have one on November 18th, that's for MTI, and we'll have one on November 21st for BTI. And again, reach out to us with any question. You don't have to wait for info sessions. Feel free to reach out to us.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Great seeing you today. And looking forward to seeing your applications.
And thanks for sticking around longer. So have a great day.